Well, good news, Sharks fans. I've only taken 2+ weeks off now after telling you that I would try to record weekly. And there's a lot to talk about. 8 games, some prospects being sent to the AHL, some getting call ups. But we're here to talk about it all on this episode of View from Outside the Tank. Well, guys, it's been a productive couple weeks. We've got 8 games. I'm not going to dive too deep into all of them because, again, we have 8 games. It's a lot. But we've seen some really great things. We've seen some things that also weren't so great. But at the end of the day, we are at the beginning of December. We are technically in a playoff spot and over 500 record. Over 500 record as far as wins and losses are concerned, because overtime losses would technically take us into under 500. But hey, you get a point, right? So our points percentage at least is above 500. We've seen some really good things this month. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this, but Yaroslav Askarov has been nothing short of a revelation. He has completely changed. His preseason was kind of terrible. His beginning of the season was really terrible. And for November, if it wasn't for a guy named Jesper Wallstedt, we probably would be hearing about him across every form of media as far as the NHL is concerned, because he's been outstanding. His save percentage, I think, for the month of November ended at 943 or something ridiculous like that. I think for November he had 8 wins and 2 losses. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am. But looked really, really good. He was making the saves that he is supposed to make, but also making some of the saves that we needed him to make when we had those little lapses in defense, as we're wont to do. But with the good, there's always a little bad. And as good as he was, he got stomped out of the room by the Avalanche. No harm there. As of yesterday, they've lost 2 games in regulation, so they're a pretty good hockey team. We did beat them in overtime, so that's nice. Not the game I'm talking about. The game I'm talking about, we got drilled 6-0. I'm pretty sure they were pissed about the first time. And then on Wednesday of this week, the Capitals reminded us that we still got a long way to go. They won 7-1 in that matchup and looked every part of the team that is going to, are capable of making a run in the East. They've got a great goalie that I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with, especially since he came from the Vegas organization, Logan Thompson, who looked great that game. And they just capitalized on their opportunities. And I think the biggest learning point we can take from them from that game is they got up on the Sharks and they did not let off the pedal. They fully emphasized the all gas, no brakes mentality that I would really love to see the team execute. They got up, they kept pushing, and they showed us what it's like to play against a real hockey team. And that's no slam on the previous opponent. But you go from the Utah game where we pretty much completely outclassed them, really played a solid game, obviously got a solid result in winning 6-3, which is most likely our most dominating win of the season. And then to follow that with, I want to say it was a stinker. Like, we did a good job of matching up statistically with them in that 7-1 loss. It's just they buried their chances and we didn't, and that's going to happen. But again, they didn't let us come up for air. They scored their goals and kept pushing, and that's what you want to see in a hockey team. That's the kind of team that once you get to the playoffs, you can do a lot of damage, because it's giving teams room and letting them come up for air, which is the thing that ends up knocking you out once you get into the playoffs. And so Washington can play like that the whole way. They're going to do some special things. It's good at this part of the season to get excited about the fact that we're still in a playoff spot. But you also have to take some things with a grain of salt, because I believe as of right now, Edmonton for sure is not for sure. I'm almost positive they're not in a playoff spot, and they've been in the finals the last 2 years. And the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions are, or at least as of a couple days ago, were last place in the Eastern Conference. And so things are going to change over the course of the season. The teams that are expected to be good will make moves to try to get better and as good as we're playing. And I think that when we play at our best, we can compete with anybody, and that the playoffs aren't out of reach. It's just our best pieces are so young, and it's a long, heavy season. And, the way it's looking right now, you look forward to the Olympic break, get a couple weeks off, get some training in, get things locked back in, and get to the home stretch. But it's looking very possible that our best player will end up playing in the Olympics, which means he won't get any break. And at 19 years old, to go from playing, college season last year, suiting up for, I think it was 67 games, and this year looking like it's going to be a full 82 plus another who knows how many in the Olympics. That's a lot of miles that, even though his legs are young, they're not used to. And so, that could change the dynamic of what we're looking at as far as what that home stretch could be. What else have we learned over the last couple of weeks? Well, we've learned that 9 defensemen is too many. We definitely need to get rid of a couple of them. And as much as I want the John Klingberg experiment to work out, it's clearly not doing that. And I don't think it's going to. And I don't know how we solve that problem, because there's nobody in the league that's going to take him right now, unless somehow they find themselves at 5 NHL defensemen and don't trust any of their AHLers. Like, there's just no way anybody's going to take him. And so I don't know if you put him in sort of a Vlasic from last season role where you just press box him and bring him in once every 6 games or something like that, to prove to yourself why he shouldn't be in there. But he's probably got to go. Nick Leddy has no interest in being in San Jose anyway, so he can go. And Mario Ferraro, I know that I attack him sometimes, and he was kind of what we needed when we weren't good. Not in the sense that he made the team any better, because he absolutely did not. But he was the guy working harder, trying harder, playing harder for everybody on a team that wasn't trying hard, that wasn't trying to be good. He's a blue-collar player, and I can appreciate that. But we're at the precipice of something special, and we don't just need blue-collar players. We need guys that can really get the job done. And the game now is about being able to play both sides of the ice. And if you're only going to play one, it's about playing the offensive side of the ice. Goals are scored at will. Defensemen are really forwards that just couldn't quite make it, it feels like, as a forward. And so now they're defensemen, or they're playing that way. They skate better than they ever have. They have heavier shots than they ever have. They have more vision of the ice than they ever have. Like, the defenseman position isn't anymore just clearing out the front of the net. Is that important? Yeah, absolutely it is. But it's not the only important thing. And it feels like the goal now is to assemble a roster where you can win 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, as opposed to winning 2-1, 1-0, that sort of thing. And so Mario's just not built for that for us. He is somebody that can be a perfectly cromulent third liner somewhere, and or third pairing guy somewhere, and possibly even for a playoff team. And so I think there probably is a market out there, and you need to take advantage of that market before there's not a market out there, because we're getting to a point where we have enough guys in the pipeline that are talented enough that eventually he becomes potentially your 7th defenseman. And so you need to trade him before he becomes that, because once he becomes that, you get nothing in return. But yeah, those 3 guys, you get rid of those 3 guys, and that takes us down to 6. Like I said, Klingberg likely still on the roster because nobody's going to take him. That's probably also the case with Leddy, but because he hasn't played enough to prove that he's not good anymore, he might have a small amount of trade value. If you can get a 7th round for him, cool. And then Ferraro, I think him and packaging something you could get a halfway decent return, nothing spectacular, but maybe a piece for the future or a higher draft pick than you're sending out or whatever it happens to be. I think there's something there to that. But you do that, and that takes you down to 6, technically 7 with Klingberg, and then you bring up a Cagnoni or something like that, and now you're at 7 serviceable defensemen. Because what we're seeing defensively is that nobody plays together on back-to-back games. Like, you're not ever seeing the same pairings, and so nobody has the opportunity to get used to each other. And if nobody has the opportunity to get used to each other, then they don't know where the other person's going to be on the ice. And you're seeing it in spades. There's so many times where both guys are pinching to the same guy. Well, you can't do that. If you do that, then there's more open guys on the opposite side of the ice. And so we're seeing some of the pratfalls of that. The other thing that I think I want everybody to keep in mind is we're looking at things like this, especially, if you're looking to move Mario out, or if you think you could get a taker for Klingberg, but you're going to have to attach something to him. It's really important to know I am super excited about all the prospects we have in the pipeline. We have a lot of really good players coming through the system, and I'm excited for it. But just because they're in the system, and whoever likes them, doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to make it to the next stage of this rebuild. And that sucks because there's so many guys that are likable and you can see the talent. But at the end of the day, you have to put together your 4 best lines, and your 4 best lines may not be your 12 best players. Like, it may be situationally your 4 best lines, right? And you need to put together your 3 best pairings. Again, same thing. It may not be your 6 best defensemen. It just might be the most situationally responsible 6. And goalies are goalies. You take your best 2 goalies. But I think that we need to keep that in mind. Now, that doesn't mean that I think we're going to trade a Musty or a Chernisov or anybody like that. Like, I don't think that's coming. Especially the way they're playing right now in the AHL. It's interesting to me. Some news this week. So Michael Misa, coming back from his ankle injury, is going to be sent down to AHL for a conditioning stint. And when they talked to him about who he was skating with, I assumed it was going to be Musty and Chernisov, especially because he had played with Cherney prior up in Saginaw, and the 2 of them, Cherney and Musty, have done really well together. Centered by Philip Biested, which good for him. Like, I'm super excited. Like, I would love for him to be a part of the future. I don't know whether or not I still expect it, but because he sort of falls in that category of really love the guy, but is he going to make that next iteration of this team? So I assume Musty was going to go down and skate with them, but it looks like they're riding the hot hand, so Biested's going to stay on that line. And I think Misa said he was skating with Wahlstrom and Lund, which should still be a good line and give him plenty of good looks. And Lund's kind of a big body, so that helps him, shield him a little bit. But I was really excited to see him potentially skate with Cherney and Musty, because you look towards the future of the Sharks, and I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that ends up being your second line, or, maybe you move Musty up to the top line and bring Eklund down to the second. You have Eklund, Misa, and Cherney, because you just need a couple more passers, because Cherney's going to bury pretty much everything you put in his way. So maybe that makes more sense. And same with Musty. So if you have those 2 goal scorers that are like pure goal scorers and you split them up between your first and second lines, maybe that's better. But to me, moving Misa down, if you put him with those 2 guys, you're looking at potential future second line of the San Jose Sharks. And when I say future, I mean as early as next year, with some trades as early as the end of this year, depending on, how competitive we are with the Barracuda at the end of the season, and whether you want to ride it and try to win the playoffs. But yeah, you can't get too tied. Somebody's going to go. I imagine Biested's on that list. I imagine Kasper Haltman's on that list. Those are both guys that 3-4 years ago you would have been like, yeah, cool, that's the future of the franchise. Those guys aren't going anywhere. But as we've gotten progressively worse as a team and gotten higher draft picks and Mike Greer's done a really good job of stockpiling more draft picks. You're starting to see more and more high-end talent come through the system. And not to say that Howden and Bistad aren't. I think they are high-end talent. I just don't think their high-end is as high-end as some of the guys that now have come into the system. And so that makes them, to a certain extent, more expendable. And when I say that you're building your best 4 lines, not necessarily utilizing your best 4 players, that's where you get into your third line of Ethan Cardwell. To me, looks like a fixture for that going forward. I think Colin Graff is your third line winger going forward. And then if I had to bet in 3-4 years, you're probably looking at Cole McKenney as centering that line. And that's a pesky little line. Sort of reminds you of the Mike Ricci days. But just gets after it. And it's 3 guys that can run the penalty kill so that you don't, like, when you take a penalty, you don't feel like you need to throw your best players out there. Like, I think there's going to be a day where Macklin ends up on the penalty kill and, Misa potentially ends up on the penalty kill. And those are your 2 best centers at that time. And that's fairly natural for a National Hockey League team. But I think that having guys on the third and fourth line that can run the penalty kill means that you're able to get your best guys a break when you need to get your best guys a break. We're not quite there yet. So I think developing all that and introducing a third line of that nature is going to be really important for the future of the franchise. So I guess that's my big thing, is just don't get overly attached. I think that, Carrier is probably part of a temporary solution. He's either going to be your AHL starter going forward, or he's going to be the backup for a little bit. I think that Matt Davis down in Wichita, he's put up some fantastic numbers this season, except for wins and losses, because they're not a very good team, but his save percentage, his counting stats are really good. And I think he had something ridiculous, like 53 saves the other night. And comes with a championship pedigree. He won a national championship at Denver as their starting goalie. So I think that you have guys in the pipeline, but like when you really look at the goalie situation, like in 4 years, 5 years, I think your best case scenario is if you still have Matt Davis and Gabe Carrier, they're running the AHL, and Ravensburgen and Askarov are your top 2 in the NHL. Because again, Ravensburgen's also looked phenomenal starting this season. And so, like, you have so many points in the future, right? Like, that means that you have tradable assets, and maybe Carrier or Davis is one of those tradable assets. Like I said, Helton and Bistad, those are all guys that fit in that tradable assets form. And your left side is so strong defensively currently. Not currently on the NHL roster, but I mean currently as an organization, that when you have Mook and you have Cagnoni, and you're looking at possibly Wang as coming through in another 4 or 5 years, and like you have all these guys, then you start to worry about, well, what guys are going to make it? Like Noah Beck's had a good start in Wichita, and could be looked at as a potential left side guy, but I think he probably tops out at AHL or gets traded off to bring something in. And just again, no matter how many times you look at a guy that's doing well for us in the minors right now, you have to think that potentially that person's a trade piece. And even at the NHL level, like, we know that there are guys that we're going to trade away to, free some more money, because we've got young guys that we're going to need to put on bigger contracts and just make room for young guys to come up. And so you've got your guys like Alex Winberg, who I love, and he's perfect for what we are doing right now, but he's not on our roster when we make the next turn. And so if you know that he's not on the roster when we make the next turn, then how long do you hold on to him knowing that? Do you hold on to him until we get to that turn? Or do you sell him when he's at his best, which seems to be right now? Like, I think you can take him and show him to all 31 of the other teams, and those teams that are in playoff position are going to look at him as the perfect option as a third line center that can play second line if somebody goes down. Wins your faceoffs, is good for your D zone faceoffs where you need to win so you can get the puck out. Like, I think all of that is really important. And so, again, as much as I like him, he falls into that category of don't get too used to him being on the team, because I think that there's a point between now and the trade deadline where he ends up somewhere else. Misa moves up to being your second line center, and then you start filling in behind that. Going back to the games that we saw, we were able to beat the Kings in a shootout the first game after the last episode. Lost to the Senators, played a hard-fought game. Zetterlund, had a good game, and you can say reminded us, I guess, of why we shouldn't have traded him. I know that I was listening to one of the other Shark podcasts right after that, and they were talking about how it was kind of a lose-lose for both organizations, but I don't see it that way. Like, again, when you're looking at 2, 3, 4 years down the line, is Zetterlund on your top two lines, which is what he should be with his talent? He's not. And so if he's not in that, then what value does he have? And we got Ostapchuk back, and I don't think that he's some sort of miracle worker, but he's the kind of guy that you bring in because he has value on the fourth line. Your fourth line needs to be big. They need to play a little heavy, but they still need to be smart, and they still need to be able to score. You can't have fourth lines anymore that put up 0 points. Like, they need to put up something. It's not just about being there. And when you look at guys like Ostapchuk, and you look at guys like Regenda, like we have guys in the system that are capable of playing those fourth line minutes, still putting up some points, playing heavy enough to keep the other team honest. And so, as much as losing Zetterlund hurt last year, again, you're looking at the greater good. You're looking at Mike Grier playing 4D chess because he's 3 and 4 steps ahead of everybody, making sure that he's setting up the roster the way that he sees is important going forward. So, lose that game to the Senators, come back, beat the Bruins, which is a big one. Bruins have been really great all year. They started Swayman, so we got their best, which Swayman's had a fantastic start to the season so far, but we found a way to beat him. And then the Avalanche decided to exact revenge, and they did it quite thoroughly. The former Shark Mackenzie Blackwood pitching a shutout, and they won 6-0 and showed every part of why they are a very legitimate Stanley Cup threat. I think that's the thing that you're seeing this season with our matchups, is that when we get stomped, like cleanly stomped, one, it's against a team that's probably a Stanley Cup competitor. And two, it's against the teams that we should absolutely be modeling ourselves after. You take the Carolina game early in the season, where they were just wave after wave after wave. They had people filling gaps all night long. It didn't matter that they were up. They just completely suffocated everything that we could possibly do. You get to the Colorado game, and again, sort of wave after wave after wave, but they're also offensively minded. Like, their defense is playing really good offense, and they do it so well that you forget that the other team is even allowed to possess the puck. And, that's something that we can learn from, because we have a lot of offensively minded players on this team. And then, again, you go to the Capitals the other night, and again, just wave after wave after wave, and they play Eastern Conference playoff hockey, heavy, fast, big shots. Like, you take the styles of all three of those teams and absorb a little of them into what you're doing, and you're going to go a long way. So we come out of that game, and the next game's against the Canucks. We end up beating them 3-2, which we should beat them, especially with the way they've started so far. So that was good. Then we get to Vegas and played a good game. We got down early, but showed some resilience, which hasn't necessarily been our calling card the last few seasons. And so to come back and make that a 4-3 game and really have a legitimate chance of tying it late, that was good. And so I'm hoping our next game in Vegas, which is the Tuesday before Christmas, the 23rd, I think, when I'm there, I can see us finally take that next step and be like, okay, it's time to beat Vegas in the regular season again. The last time that we won anything of any consequence was Game 7 in 2019. And since then, they've been proving to us why we're their little brother that they can beat up on, and why I hate them so much. So hopefully that game we can have a little bounce back. We did have a bounce back from that game the following Monday when we played the Mammoth and won 6-3 again. To me, looked like sort of our most complete win of the season. That was really huge for us. it was something that you need coming out of a loss that bad. And what was cool, so it wasn't about that game. I forgot to talk about this the last time we played the Mammoth. But I live down here in Arizona, and that means that Utah games are blacked out here, amongst other teams. Games, if I have ESPN Plus, so I can watch as many games as possible. But miraculously, by not having a team, we've found in the area that there are 3 teams worth of games that we cannot watch, which would be Utah, Vegas, and Colorado. So a decent number of our games throughout the year. Anyway, so the first Utah game, the second Utah game, I was at work, so I couldn't really watch it. But the first Utah game, I found something that I really think, being in sort of the tech capital of the world, I don't understand why it's not something we have yet. Maybe somebody out there like a Brody Brazil, who works for the team now and is adequately suited to push forward this streaming mentality, can do this. But the Mammoth have their own streaming network. And blackouts happen here in Arizona, but I can stream their games through their streaming network so that I can still see the games that I wouldn't otherwise be able to see. Keep in mind, if I had antenna or regular DirecTV where you pick up local channels, I would have been able likely to watch it. But it's 2025. That's not really a thing anymore. And so going into their streaming app, what I thought was really, really cool is that you could buy the full season, so you could watch the entire season. Great. Don't need it. Not because I don't like Utah. In fact, I have one of their players, their dad was one of my regulars at a restaurant when I worked down here when they were still in Phoenix. So, I don't dislike Utah, and, I'm rooting for them to at least do decently well just because, they got a raw deal down here as a team. Like, the fans got hurt, the players got hurt, the owners were shit. But this new streaming thing, so you can get their full season, great. I think it allows you to just do the home games. So if you don't have, or home games or road games. And so, if you have season tickets, you could get just the road games because you're going to be going to the home games. And if you just want to see the atmosphere of home games, then you could get the home games and not get the road games, although I think that's weird. And the other thing they had was on demand. So, you could buy a single game, which is what I did. It was $5, which is far more. Well, it's not far more, but the monthly is probably $10. So I was paying half the monthly for one game, but it's the only game I cared about watching. And I think that you would have other teams in blocked areas that would sort of be the same, right? Like if I was in LA and I didn't have antenna or standard cable or whatever, and the Sharks were playing the Kings, I would pay, just like I did against Utah, $5 to watch the game. That was the only way I could watch it because I didn't need all the Kings broadcasts. I just wanted that game. I just think it's a cool extra source of revenue. It gives the team more control over what they're doing. I think one thing that Utah didn't do that I would do if I was any other team doing this is there a way to then incorporate, I don't want to buy Flow Hockey to watch all the Barracuda games and then get all the games that I don't really care about, right? So is there a way to get a package so now you have home games, away games, full season? You can do single games. Do you want to do all games for the Sharks and the Barracuda? Great. Do you want to do all games for Sharks and the Barracuda and you can pay a $5 single game fee if you want to watch, I don't know, we'll call it the London Knights. Not that I think we have anybody on the roster. Let's call it the Kitchener Rangers because we've got Kristen Kirsch there. I want to spend $5 to watch this singular game because it's got a prospect in the system. They work with Flow Hockey or whatever. Out of a $5 single game, the Sharks keep $1 and $4 goes to Flow Hockey or whatever. But it moves more money through the system and keeps everybody up to date on all the players. I just think it was a really, really cool idea. And it's something that I think that the Sharks specifically would be really good at. And having a content creator on your team like Brody Brazil means that they would have plenty of different content to throw on that streaming service that wouldn't make it feel stale. Because I feel like you'd get the streaming service and you would get some bonus content in addition to the games. And I think he would be really good at creating some of that bonus content. What else? Oh, you know how I'm big on we sort of lost our edge as fans. But first of all, I would like to give credit to all the fans out there that have made their way back to the tank. It still hasn't looked 100% full, and that's okay. Again, I got spoiled for a long time. I don't even remember what our sellout streak was, but it was something outrageous that I don't know if has ever been matched, at least below the Canadian border. And so I got spoiled on that. And you've been able to tell in the lean years, like, how much the crowd has thinned out and how it's a different environment. Well, they're starting to come back because good, bad, or otherwise, they're at least exciting to watch now. And you're starting to see the fans get excited about it. And they're getting the idea that, the future is coming. And so you're seeing them show up and you can hear it on the telecast. You can hear more noise. You can see more people, going crazy. And God bless you. Like, that is exactly what this team needs. Like, especially young guys like that. Like, they need all the support they can possibly get. Because in a few years, they're going to be showing us what we're hoping they're going to become. But then more than that, like, you're also in this phase where, so many of us grew up in the Bay, with the Sharks because they were new and they were like the first team that was truly ours because they were new. Like, not that I'm saying, the 49ers didn't move from anywhere else. The Warriors, they bounced around the Bay Area a little bit. The A's and the Giants from elsewhere, but like, we grew up with those teams and that's great. I'm not trying to say that like the Giants are still the New York Giants or the A's when they were still in the Bay Area were still the Philly A's or the Kansas City A's. Certainly not Kansas City because they didn't spend many years there, but like, the Sharks were the first thing for me in my age group that it was like entirely ours. And so now you're at a point where I think that we've grown older, and yeah, some of us are raising our kids to be Sharks fans. My kids don't like hockey, but I'm working on it. But there's just gaps, and it's hard to just strategically create new fans, right? And so I want to give a shout out to the gentleman over at Trailer Park Sports Network, which I probably know his name and don't, but he lives down in Alabama, I believe, and decided to get into hockey. He's into all things ice sports, skeleton, luge, bobsledding, anything on ice. He's for it, which is funny. But he decided to pick a team at one point, and he picked the Sharks, and I'm thankful for it because watching somebody go through it the first time, I've been going through it for 35 years or whatever it's been now. And so watching somebody go through it and get excited about the progress of the team and get excited about the young kids and feel hurt when the team loses and just going through all the emotion that hockey brings out in people. Man, it's like just really cool to watch him have that reaction and to watch the team support it. Like, you're seeing the team send out, well, the Sharks Pro Shop anyway, send out things to him. So he's like getting the new jersey and he's getting, the Hockey Fights Cancer Shark scarf and like all these different things. And they're really supporting his love, not just of the sport, although he is getting that because as much as he talks about the Sharks, he's still talking about some of the other teams and the great things that they're doing. And, but it's a joy to watch. And there's a lot of people shitting on him because he's from Alabama. Should he also not like hockey? Keeping in mind that Alabama and Auburn, I think, both have college hockey teams. And from what I understand, are both halfway decent. Like, they're not NC2A programs yet. But you're seeing more and more schools work towards that, especially as the NIL programs are getting big. Living down here in Arizona, Arizona State is making waves. You would never expect that when you're used to the powerhouses of BU and BC and Maine and Michigan, and Western Michigan won last year. But like, all those cold weather colleges have the best hockey teams. Well, not so much anymore. Like, you're starting to see a little expansion. And it's just exciting to watch him get excited about it. And hopefully, there are other people out there getting that excitement, and even more, hopefully, than that. Hopefully, he is getting people that may not otherwise be excited about hockey to be excited about hockey, and the Sharks specifically, because again, we need everybody we can get. It's about to be real special, and I'm here for it, and I hope that there are more people here for it. And yeah, it's just exciting stuff. And he is the exact vibe of the fans we should have going forward. Not just excited and sad when we lose and all that stuff, but he's working so hard to learn everything he can about the sport and sound knowledgeable when he's talking about it. Yeah. I'm 35 years in and I still don't think I sound knowledgeable. So if he's already coming across a little bit that way, so new to the sport, that's awesome and something we should look forward to and something we should promote far more. Because I've been to Ducks games and some of my best friends are Ducks fans and they know more than most. But man, it's real hard to watch hockey in the Honda Center. I'll tell you that much. It is not a bastion of hockey intelligence for sure. But yeah, so if you haven't checked him out on the socials, find him at Trailer Park Sports Network. He is super fun to watch and gets super excited and loves just great hockey. And it's fun to see and fun to watch and something to follow. Again, I'm going to keep trying to keep pace with the schedule. I know I haven't done so well. I do have a slight excuse. We did just get a new puppy, and she is terrorizing me in my life. She's fantastic, but she's also our fifth dog. So between the 5 dogs, 4 cats, 2 kids, and my father-in-law, like there's a lot of stuff going on in the house. And so I try to make this as regular as possible, but that would be why it's not always as regular as it can be. But looking forward, we have games. Today we play the Dallas Stars. I'm not particularly looking forward to that, just after getting just stomped by Washington. Dallas has played really well. And then we're lucky enough to play the Hurricanes again, who already showed what they can do to us. And then next week we get the Flyers and Maple Leafs, so that's a little bit easier. Flyers, Maple Leafs, and Penguins. So that's a little bit easier week, even though the Penguins have done well. But, I mean, the Leafs, as mediocre as they've been this year, they still have plenty of talent and can do some damage. And the Flyers have a lot of young talent that's doing pretty well. But those would be our more winnable games, theoretically. But you just look forward at the Stars game and the Hurricanes game, and you're hoping, at the very least, we can manage 2 points. Whether that's 1 win or 2 overtime losses, I'll take either. That would be nice, especially because this next stretch of 5 is all away games, and so those are never easy. Yeah, so again, trying to get back to hopefully recording on Sunday or Monday for weekly podcasts. If you have any questions that you have that you think I can answer, which probably isn't very many, feel free to comment below, or you can shoot me an email on viewfromoutsidethetank@gmail.com. I'd be happy to respond to those as well. Another idea I'm kind of kicking around for content, if I'm only doing an episode a week, is maybe I take some of those questions and I answer those in little short form 30 to 60 second videos that we can put on reels and stuff like that. So if that's something that interests you and you'd like to see me do, again, leave that notation in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Not just with Sharks fans. I would love to hear Ducks fans shit on me for what I just said about their team, but also any other team's fans to just reach out and let me know what they're seeing with my team or what they're seeing with their team that I think would be interesting, or they would think would be interesting for me to talk about. It's been a little while since the last episode, so I decided to give you an extra long episode. So now that I've bored you for a full 40 minutes or so, that's it for this episode, and we'll see you next time on A View from Outside the Tank.